essentially a Rube Goldberg gambling machine. The better we are, the more we actually will get real adoption.
Absolutely love the sound of that and can't wait to hear more, man. Can't wait to hear more. I wish I could stay on here for another hour and talk about it, but I have to go right now.
Like, I perfectly understand why third-party talks in this chat is not accepted, but what you guys are proposing gives people an opportunity to at least know what's to come and what is, and other people, like not just us, that aren't in crypto or on a different blockchain can say, okay, well, there's a lot of useful things over there. So that's pretty good.
Right. And we, again, we see this with so many things. If you use, most most bank apps actually have connectability to what we would consider, 4 or 5 different protocols. So like right now, if somebody wants to do so many of these things, the vast majority of legacy stuff, especially for people who don't understand, you can do most of these things by like messaging somebody and then literally, texting. Like you can literally go get a mortgage quote through email, through text messaging, through an app-based thing. Almost everything's like that, but these things are so segregated for obvious reasons in crypto, that the more we can, like right now, it takes a high IQ to just basically keep up with what's going on, and even understanding 2 or 3 of these tools, like that's an issue for adoption, right? Like we need to make it where people can use a lot of these protocols on top without having to master them to some degree.
Is that a hint of what you're trying to do?
I think we're trying to bridge some of those things. Like, I mean, again, just for everyone who doesn't know, me and Honda are obviously big buddies, so sometimes I answer long form when he's asking me a very direct question. But me and you are both of a similar mind state that, that we've always been that way, right? We're always sort of maxi-ish, but we're always looking for more options, more utility. And that's what's sort of kind of, again, we all kind of find our roles in the community. You built cool stuff. Now you've got your site kind of pushing what you found to be really useful. And, I've always liked to kind of be in that middle and always trying to find utility. So I have a foot in each camp, right? Like, of course I'm here to make big money, but I am hashtag in it for the tech. So we just want to make sure that, people understand this utility is actually there. Otherwise, this all becomes a hot potato game of when to get out.
I like what you're doing. I'm just thinking about what you just said earlier about the how to pulse and a one-stop shop to for education and one-stop shop to look at all the other protocols and how you can use them. Yeah, I understand the difficult side as well. You got to make sure that they're solid projects and whatnot. I don't know how you're going to pull that one off, but if you do, well done and thank you. The guys at How to Pulse are always awesome.
Yeah, and we basically have it built now. It's really more about the social engineering side of it, not so much the code, on figuring out how to make sure that, again, that we're always being respectful of, RH's house here and sort of our position in the community to, to get to talk about our third party website in all these chats, because we have added so much utility. But, that doesn't mean we want to leverage that into, a shill site either. So it is tricky. We'll have it on there, and maybe we'll just, find a few ways to kind of obfuscate it so that people who are looking for those things can find them, but it doesn't turn into just banner pops-ups like, hey, would you really like to buy a third party? We'll try to figure out how to have a foot in each camp.
Did you speak to the team about my little suggestion I had about How to Pulse Week?
Yeah, we have that on the list. So we're finishing up sort of a contract with a few people who are helping do some of the content work. And then we have one that we want to aim at the Terra Luna people and just, basically instead an olive branch to a lot of people who just got wrecked, and hopefully their dev teams and some of the big brains in their community. Because despite what you'll read on Twitter, there is not an excess of genius anywhere I've ever been. And if there's more smart people who want to come make us smarter and build cool stuff, I'll be happy to have each and every one of them. So those are our next couple targets. And then, yeah, we're looking into your option as well.
If you need any help, just let me know. I know you guys have everything under wrap, but I'll try my best to help in with what I can.
Yeah, absolutely, brother.
I've been thinking up this idea for printing out a bunch of stickers with QR codes on them, slapping them up all around town. And at first, I was thinking maybe I'll like embed some crypto in each one that can be withdrawn. And as I think more about it, and that would just be kind of complicated. So now I'm just thinking of just slapping them around and having it basically every the QR codes all be the same, and the landing page would be the howtopulse.com site, and just like I don't know, under them maybe just write like, do you like crypto question mark, or like want to learn more about crypto, or just maybe put nothing and have people scan it and land there. Because I know I've done it a couple times, like roll up and see a QR code on like a poster or something, and I'll scan it and it'll, give me a link to the website to buy tickets with a 15% off code for the concert or something like that.
Yeah, you can also, if we want to do that, if you'll give us a heads up, we'll make sure that you get any support you need. But you can also send them to the faucet, because that way you wouldn't have to necessarily like fund each individual QR code, but you could direct them to our mainnet faucet, and then they would get dropped some Pulse, and they could actually make a transaction or two for free.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Essentially, land them on the faucet. Like ideally, I want everyone to know to practice security first. But if we're talking about, one or two pulse or whatever you guys are going to be giving out on the faucet, at that point, security isn't necessarily the primary focus, although it is if they plan on actually adopting and putting some real money into it. So, maybe land them on the faucet, and at the same time, I don't know, have maybe something under the faucet saying like, just in regards to wallet and OPSEC and recommending hardware wallets right off the bat. Like, okay, here you got your free crypto, but now if you're planning on looking at more and getting more, you should probably look into getting a good wallet, because a lot of these people, they can hit the faucet up, get their one pulse, and if we're going to experience the volatility, at least the kind of volatility we're expecting, like they can look at their wallet the next day and then see that one pulse has gone up in value, 10 to 20%. At the same time, maybe down in value 10 to 20%, maybe more. But the goal would be like, hey, this thing is going to be big. Like, you've heard of Bitcoin, you've heard of Ethereum. Check out what's going on here.
Yeah, and if you have some real success with it and you're going to push it, we can even just build a custom landing page for you on the site.
Yeah, that's what I was about to head towards exactly. They'll hit the faucet, but then immediately get some education about OPSEC, and yeah, that would be great. So I'll keep putting my head against the grindstone and let you know what comes out. it's also going to be kind of hard to get around it's just the overall interpretation of like scam. You know, like everyone's first thought. At least a lot of people, I imagine. I don't spend a lot of time with people these days, but I figure a lot of people, I mean, like free money scam. You know, what are you doing? You're hacking my phone. I've gone to like my phone acts as a wireless charger. So anybody whose phone has wireless charging capabilities, they can put their phone on top of mine, and I can actually charge their phone. And like I've gone to show it to people, and they're like, "No, dude, get away from me!" You know, like you're just gonna take everything I have. And it's like, no, I'm just trying to show you something cool. But yeah, definitely a unique URL associated with the QR code would be good because that way I'd be able to find out, you know, how often it's getting hits, how many people are actually looking at it on a day by day basis.
Yeah, I mean, anything's got to be more constructive than arguing with whales you've never met, will never meet on Twitter, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know how popular geocaching is these days, but that would be cool too. Go and find all the local geocaches and drop some, you know, a little paper wallet with some free pulse in there. Get people on board.
Yeah, that's one thing. We see now with the time frame moving on Pulse, a bit of a moving goalpost that like you can just see it in people's tweets, comments, everything that they're like just literally foaming at the mouth for a narrative to understand what they're seeing. They like stories. And from what we've seen on the How to Pulse side is it's very much the same on the marketing side is everyone's looking for like this cool edge and something like revolutionary and oh, no one's tried this. Man, I can tell you that not even close orders of magnitude difference, the simplest, easiest thing to do has just been ads. Just ads on airdrop.io and a few of these things have generated by far more engagement, interest, attention to the site more than anything else we've done. The Twitter storms are relatively effective, but those two things by far have been way more successful than any sort of off-brand thing. Just getting ads, logos, and things in front of people, attracting them to sort of the stickiness, which is the content creators. Those have just been a million times more effective than anything else so far.
Yep, interesting. I believe it. And yesterday I was going through all my Google Drive, all those old paper wallets I had made for friends back in the day. They all had point 0.1 ETH in them. I was able to extract a couple, but I was actually looking for a UTC file or a Bitcoin private key because I had forgotten for a second that Bitcoin private keys were totally different than the 0x private keys from Ethereum. And anyways, I'm looking forward to when this launches so I can get my friends on board because that's what I was doing back in the day. It was so cheap and it was so easy that I could create a 0.1 Ether paper wallet. It would cost me nothing, $3 or $4, and I could send it to them. And boom, there you go. They're in the ecosystem. So to have the opportunity to get my friends and family on an active chain that has some volume, that has some economic energy behind it, and to do it cheap is going to be great. Like I've talked to multiple people where so badly I want to be like, oh, here, let me send you a couple hundred hex. And it's like, Jesus Christ, gas fees are like $12 right now. Hold on, let me talk to you like in a little bit. And then, kind of just fizzles off and dies down. And it's like when Pulse launches, it'll be super cool to just start gifting out Pulse like damn Santa Claus.
There was this there's this new YouTuber called Peter. I thought it was Peter or some, I can't remember his name, but he knows how to read code, and he said he read what like Pulsechain and its improvements. And he goes, there are some improvements that are there that Richard Hart hasn't even talked about for Pulse, like some Easter eggs. He goes, he's not going to mention them just in case the team or Richard Hart doesn't want anyone to know just yet. But I found that very interesting. But he goes, I've seen some improvements that no one's mentioned yet for Pulse. Just wanted to throw that in there. So Pulse might be better than what we thought.
How's everybody doing today in Pulsechain land? Woo, woo, woo!
What's up, brother?
Hex price. Hex price is up. Good to see you back in here, Walrus. It's been a minute, bro. Great to see you.
Yeah, you as well, man.
Just waiting for that huge YouTube debut to start coming out there, man. We miss you.
I've been doing a little streams, and then we did sort of hosted the first one on the How to Pulse channel, like, I don't know, a week ago or something like that. But yeah, a bunch of people have been bullying me into doing more content or maybe some kind of solo stuff. So I think I'm going to go ahead and let one rip this week before I head overseas for a little bit.
Let it rip, mate. Let it rip. But that last stream that you guys did was awesome. I liked it. That was one of my favorites of non-Richard Hart streams. It was really good.
Yeah, the panel was pretty cool.
If you don't mind me asking, where you headed to, mate?
I'll be in Toronto for a pretty short time. I'll be in Jordan for most of it, a couple weeks, and then Austria a little bit on the end.
Oh, Jordan. That'll be nice. The food. Oh, you say Jordan? I think food.
Oh man, you know I'm ready.
Oh, are you ready to eat a lot of meat?
Oh, I'm gonna go there and affect the national economy with how much I eat.
They've got like this. They like their thick meat. Yeah, it's pretty nice. Jordan food is very nice food. There was a restaurant down here. Like I used to live somewhere where there was a restaurant with Jordanian food, and mate, that meat just melted in my mouth. Jealous.
Yeah, when the Lebanese start cooking, it's hard not to just load up on like baba ganoush and the meat and some veggies, man, and just skip the starches altogether.
Oh, there's no starters, mate. It's just a straight bean. Like, what starters? What's that? What do you want? What? Give me the meat. Give me the food. We can't do that stuff. We'll get full straight away. We'll eat the whole thing. We're very fast eaters. Every time I have a barbecue at my place, and you know, there's like 20 people over, I make sure everyone's full before they even get to the table. They're eating straight off the barbecue. I'm like calling everyone, go eat the meat while it's hot, and then we'll eat the salad on the table. I don't wait for food.
For my invitation, then.
And you're welcome, my friend. You are welcome. But I love doing a barbecue, and COVID really stuffed it a bit for the last few years. But I was doing barbecues and just giving food to the neighbors. Like, yeah, just eat. So I love making barbecues. So if you ever come to Australia, you're more than welcome. I'll do a barbecue for you.
Good to know. Good to know. I'll start planning my next trip.
So I know in general I get to talk a lot for my crypto advice, but if you guys want some life advice, there's a famous Arab poet that said he was single his whole life until he met an Iraqi woman. Can confirm. Y'all need y'all a halal woman in your life if y'all are still single.
Is that the stories of Layla?
I can't believe you know that one, Haunted.
Oh, they're pretty good stories, man. They're pretty good stories. Like you would think some of them are made up, but I don't know if they're real, but they're pretty good, strong stories. I think wasn't a guy called Majnun? I think, which means crazy in English. Can't remember the guy's name, but Layla is the lady's name.
And then back on the the crypto side of it, that culture, Islam and a lot of the Middle East also have some really neat ideas that I do think translate well. You know, they talk about like riba, which is usury. So if you look at traditional Islamic banking or any financial systems, they don't use interest. They think that that's taking advantage of help and things like that in a lot of ways. So they have some interesting things that I don't know that they function especially well the way they've been designed. But I think you can see some of the morality and good design choices in a lot of ways. Like in crypto, we're always looking to remove friction. So there's a lot of parallels there. When you move around the world and travel, you'll find that normal is not the same normal everywhere, and you can really help shape a well-rounded view that's very beneficial.
Oh, for sure. We always have a lot to learn from different cultures.
Hey, Walrus. What's up, brother? Good to see you, man.
What's going on, sir?
So you going on a little trip, huh?
You know, just this little celebration after our season.
Super cool, man.
How'd the kids do?
Well, we got a little upset because we didn't get a shutout in the Super Bowl, but we won by 28, so I think we'll take it.
Rub it in somebody's face, huh?
What, they didn't stop the game to make it fair?
No, not in our league. It's really interesting. So we're in an area that's in Dallas. I don't want to call them out because then people ruin stuff. But they've actually been incredible. They do a lot to make sure that kids get to participate, but they don't do any of those things that really cripple it. So there's like a minimum amount of plays that players have to play. But if they miss practices, there's less. There's a lot of cool things they do to sort of make sure that we're like, hey guys, like it is still 8 and 9-year-olds. Let's make sure they get involved, but this is not socialism. Good players get the ball. Better teams win games. Better teams win real trophies. Like it's very clear in that sense. It's really cool.
That's awesome. I remember when my boys were playing t-ball, they wanted to stop keeping score. I was like, really? Do you think the kids are going to stop keeping score? They're not going to learn how to be gracious winners. They're not going to learn how to play as a team. They're not going to learn to be good losers. And that if you practice and you learn, you can win next time. Like, why don't they get this?
Not in Texas, Amy. You get blew out, you just get blew out.
See, that's a good thing though, because you learn that a defeat does not necessarily mean that you're down and out. You know what I mean?
I consider a defeat a win. You can only improve. But when you win, you think you're already the best. So you don't improve.
Well, it's nice to win too. I mean, we're all here.
Is that like an I-9 philosophy?
Yeah, but you're more likely to improve when you lose a game. But if you're already winning, you know, it's not a challenge, so you don't improve. You might not be the best out there.
Yeah, but they're not teaching that mindset to the young anymore. They're teaching them that everybody gets a trophy and everybody gets a star and everybody's, you know, and everybody's just not.
Oh yeah, for my daughter, I never let her win any races. I'm like, you got to get better than that. She didn't like me for it, but then she tried harder. The next time, like she was running, she'll try to run faster.
Exactly. I remember playing chess with my granddad, and I think he let me win every once in a while, or he'd let me get close to winning. You know, to give you that hope that you can do it. You know, and then he'd crush me. But I did get better.
chess
You're right.
is, yeah.
Guys, I need to leave in a while. If anyone wants to be muted or has a question, raise their hand now or forever hold your peace.
Have a nice day, Omar.
Thank you. Be back later.
Yep. Cheers, brother. And then obviously, you know, we're kind of just talking on some normal stuff, but if anyone has any crypto pulse specific stuff, always feel free to chime in.
Exactly. So I'll be back later. I have a class to give.
All right, brother. Go
Walrus,
educate people.
Walrus Hunted. I was thinking about something this weekend, and you know, I was looking at a lot of people doing TA on the HEX chart, especially once it got down around 5 and 4 cents. But from my experience, when HEX was at 1 cent and Richard announced that he was gonna do a Pulse Sacrifice, it went from 1 cent to 55 cents pretty quick, and it was just based off Richard announcement. So one announcement could, you know, kind of just make TA just really. I mean, to me, it seemed like the TA stuff is just people daydreaming. Now, I'm sure it's some merit behind it, but once Richard announced the Pulse Sacrifice and people start piling in buying the HEX to sacrifice it, that's what pushed the price to 55 cents. Now, lot of times people say crypto overshoots either way, to the upside or to the downside. But what's y'all thoughts on that? And now that it's fallen back down, it kind of shows that just with one announcement, it could shoot right back up again, especially with low liquidity. What's y'all thoughts on that?
Hey, the Iceman, can you mute your mic for us, brother?
Sorry.
Making a echo. No worries, brother. So the people in this room would probably hear me, and I'm always extremely rough on the TA trader mentality. But it's not that I have a problem with TA per se, is because I'm an analytical guy, right? Like I like to bring in data and try to make assumptions. The issue that I have in general with TA is the claimed accuracy and some of the mentality that goes behind it, right? So it's really not an issue with TA. So if you're, you know, if you're moving into Hex and you say, hey, I've got $5 grand, I'm going to DCA into Hex, and you're using some TA to try to help make, you know, kind of make tiebreakers and move decisions and say, okay, I'm going to move in this week. I'm willing to speed it up if we hit XYZ target. You know, I'm wanting to move in this week. I'm willing to stretch it out to 2 weeks if I get XYZ load. Like those things just make sense, right? The problem where I have with TA is when it's, well, I knew this was going to happen and I knew that was going to happen. And of course this happened. It had XYZ set up. And then, yeah, we're on the fourth wave of an Elliott and an RSI flipped. And then we got a Doji candle. And it's like, guys, look, like at some point you guys are fortune tellers, right? So a lot of people do really, really good work and are able to bring in good information. But it's one of those things that even if TA tells me that this event is the most probable event, and it actually is the most probable event, it doesn't even mean that event is likely, right? There could be so many variables, as you described, with a whale comes in and moves. We get an announcement, sort of the difference in sort of like TA versus fundamental kind of discussion. And the lower the liquidity is, the more likely you are to have these spike movements that invalidate a lot of previous TA. So the issue isn't necessarily with TA, it's in over leveraging it, right? And you're a football guy, right? So like we can look at say like player analysis and say that, okay, you know, this player hits all these metrics. And then I can look at the other player and say, yeah, I get that, but that guy's DK Metcalf. And at some point, DK Metcalf invalidates a lot of the analysis, right? So you have to have both sides. And I think the bigger issue is that even when you take in both sides, you're still wrong most of the time. And a lot of these people don't factor in being wrong enough. So I do think those things are useful. They're useful tools like everything else. You just have to put them in context and make sure that you're not overvaluing, your evaluation or the TA for what it says, because again, to your point, it can be quickly invalidated.
Walrus, I couldn't agree with you more, bro. I agree with. I don't mean to interrupt. But I just want to say that I couldn't agree with you more. You're dead on. Thank you for that.
Hey, and what do you think about this, Walrus? Because I heard something interesting in the lines of TA. It's kind of hard to even, truly and accurately even use TA by going by Bitcoin in the first place, when back in those days, in regards to technology and accessibility as it relates to crypto overall, the here and the now. So Hex has more alternatives and way more I guess, advantageous ways to gain access to Hex in lieu of way back then when you did not have those easy accessibility points. So it's so hard to even for one to even gauge between the two and try to do these comparison charts when you've got two different spectrums going on because of accessibility as a whole. What are your thoughts?
So this brings me to one of my absolute favorite analogies that, again, everyone's heard and heard me make 1,000 times. So if I go play a grandmaster chess player, I'm going to lose every single game, right? And if you actually listen to some game theorists, they actually don't consider chess a game. And I think that's a really cool point. And it really tries back into your point. But if I go play poker, I'm a decent poker player. And if I go play the absolute best poker players in the world, I'm still going to beat them on hands, right? Why is it that I can never beat a grandmaster in chess, but I can beat the best poker players in the world? It's because there's incomplete information. There you go. Johnny's in. So to your point, the reason that those things are important and why, again, I always say be careful about your analysis on TA is because you're dealing with incomplete information, right? You could even if you could look at all these charts with all the proper calculation, you had everything dialed into a T, you have no idea that Elon is going to come out there and make some tweet that's bearish. You have no idea that C5 is going to come in and say, you know what? This 20 million is burning a hole in my pocket. Whack, and double the price in a candle. So the things about TAs, they are useful. You can take those and help make better decisions. They just can't be all there is, and you can't overvalue how much they make an effect.
Amen.
Right.
Well put.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I don't usually discuss them to some degree, but I use TA. Like some of these things, again, now there are without question charters that literally do things where I can't understand the words coming out of their mouth. But spending a little time to look at sort of support lines, basic trend lines, RSI, MACD, some of these basic indicators to sort of, again, make adjustments to what you're doing already, or to add a level of clarity to a DCA strategy. Of course, that makes sense. I do that stuff all the time. Now, again, because I'm not good at it and because I think it's overvalued, I don't let it say, okay, I'm not going to invest in a project at all. The TA doesn't look like a good ad. One, I have long time frames, and two, I know that, again, those things are quickly invalidated, and positions in the world and positions in a crypto change very quickly. So I use them as a bit of a rudder when I'm using my compass to let me pick the direction.
Question, Walrus. And I agree with you 100%. When you do use it, let's say I completely took your ability to use that away. Would that hamper your decisions if you couldn't use it? I mean, do you feel a need to have it just, kind of an added extra little tool? If you didn't have that tool, would that lessen your ability?
So I don't want to sound the cop out because the answer I would like to give is yes, which would give you sort of credence to your methodology. So I don't want to take that from you because that's the answer I want to give. The problem with it is that I'm so incapable of it that even doing it at the level I do, I'm probably as off as I am right. So I would like to be able to lean on my own abilities, but I don't. I could probably go back and look at a lot of it and see if I had just said, hey, I'm going to DCA in on sort of a fundamental line, not really looking at the chart for anything other than just the most basic indicators. I don't know that it would change too much, but I feel better about it for sure.
No, and I'm not saying that as a point to say, you know, what I do, you should be doing it. I'm not saying that at all. I was just looking at that as more of an interest of how you personally look at the situation, and if you personally find a need to kind of use it, you know, and I'm not even saying that anybody has to use it, because obviously you don't have to use it. It's a no-brainer, you know. We can get in, we could dollar cost average in. Fucking chart doesn't mean anything. But I just find it interesting how people do use it, and you know, how much value they do or do not put into it. You know, I find that very interesting how people do that. It's a great thing to hear.
And to me particularly, a lot of it also is I leverage what I'm good at. And so the fact that I don't find charting particularly interesting means I haven't spent the same amount of time on it. And I like to lean on things that I'm obsessive about. So, and pretty much everything, right? In all my other hobbies, I have particular things that stand out, that I enjoy, that I find to be impactful. And then because I'm an obsessive type, I'll overplay those for what another person should use that indicator, but it's because I spend a lot of bandwidth on it, right? So everyone in the room, again, you know, kind of speaking to the room, everyone knows I'm not a dev, but I know a lot about the code on these few projects because I'm obsessive, right? So while I would say that I'm clearly not a coder, I lean into some of those technical aspects and merits because I'm obsessive, right? Like when I play fantasy, there's particular things that I like where I lean on those again because I'm obsessive on those. So when it comes to charting, I try to always use it as a tool, and usually I lean to the extremes, right? So where you might look at something and say, hey, I'm 60-40, I'm going to bet on 60, because I don't have that clarity. One, I'm not sure that I'm 60-40, and usually I still wouldn't use that. But if I sort of see TA that tells me like 90-10%, then I'm going to use that to sort of help me steer. So, you know, you could look at a lot of charts and just say, all right, cool, here's a chart, tell me what you see, and you start rattling off information. For me, I need to look at like a loaded deck, right? I want to see that every single indicator is telling me one thing. I need it hooked on phonics easy before I could really factor it in to be, you know, more than, you know, changing a coin flip.
And I get the impression that you pretty much only use it so that you can get that grin on your face. You're like, well, I'm getting in anyways, and fuck, okay, I agree with the chart. And so it gives you that grin to say, I'm right anyways, even though you knew you were right before even looking at the chart. So it's kind of cool.
Yep, and I have that habit with a lot of things too. So whenever, you know, again, you guys know I like game systems, so I play poker, I like fantasy football, I like sports betting, even on things I don't know. So how I handle the vast majority of what I do is being very sound, long time horizon, those things. But to John's point, the things that make me the happiest are the absolute ridiculous things where I'm like, hey, this is going to happen. And it's a 3-way parlay with 1,200 to 1 odds. And I bet $3 on it because it's fun. Like when those things hit, there's just so much more edification.
But kind of a rule of thumb that I've been noticing in the market is about 3 times a year, it'll give you max fear. You could see kind of max fear in the market, like what we just went through, where people just don't know if it's going to go to zero or if it's going to hold at 4 cents. And it seems like to me that's your best indicator when to start buying, when you know there's just a lot of fear in the market. And another thing is the best time to start selling is when, like, okay, you got stuff like the Bitcoin happening, and you could tell kind of through the media when crypto is getting a lot more coverage, and your friends that never invested in crypto starting to ask you about it. That kind of gives you an indication when you're at the top of the market. It seemed like those two things are kind of indicators to me now of when I should be buying and when I should be selling.
Yeah, and there's a lot of those types of indicators, right? I mean, John S came on the other day and was talking about the volume indicator in TradeView, which I didn't know about. I'm not a big TA guy, but I use it to confirm, as confirmation and stuff. But somebody that's been using these tools for decades, I see it. I see a lot of parallels, like with any artistry or craft, right? You've got a bunch of tools, and if you know how to use those tools well, you can come out with a great album, or you can come out with this great portrait. But it's all about your comfort level and how you use those tools, I think. So I think, like Walrus was saying, more on the confirmation side, John S is saying more on the predictive side. But I think they're still valuable tools that have a place in what we're doing, nonetheless. John S doesn't say he relies 100% on an RSI chart, right? There's a lot of different factors. They're constantly moving, constantly changing, things that happen, announcements, things that Walrus was talking about, those types of things absolutely change, the predictability of a chart and the changes in what tools you use. But, I don't think it's as binary as some people want to come on and say, oh, it doesn't work, absolutely doesn't work, or, oh, this is the only thing that works. I mean, obviously there's a big area in between where, if you know how to use the tools and you use them right, I think you can absolutely use them to your benefit.
Yeah, my issue is like in between time. If I get some dry powder just come out of nowhere and I want to invest it, a lot of times I'll be like, I need to invest this now instead of waiting for the market to tell you, okay, maybe you just need to stay on the sideline or stay in USDC and wait on some of that fear to come in to the market, which it always comes in eventually, at least 2 or 3 times a year.
Pulse OG, by the way, I know you're a football fan. I can't find you on the list here. Will you shoot me a DM? I want to send you a picture. I sent it to Jake in an interview yesterday.
Okay, cool.
Was that the one you put on Twitter the other day, Walrus?
Yes, sir.
Is that your boy, Walrus?
Football in the summer for?
Because we're in Texas and we have nothing better to do with our time. And then to the other question, he's my like nephew godson, so I go up and help coach him and his team.
That's great, man. I've seen that. I think I'll reply and ask you, is that your boy? Lovely one, man. Congrats.
Yeah, I love my little nephew so much. Like I said, he's my best friend. So that the other day his dad was yelling at him about something or whatever, and I leaned over to his mom and I was like, "Hey, look, you've done a really great job. Do you think you can cook me one up too? I don't want to risk it that I screw it up and that he has my genes. Just get me another one of those, another quarterback, and then I'll raise him."
Don't be surprised if they called you and you say, you know what, you can have him.
Yeah, he looked like a quarterback.
Got a big old blockhead, looked like Matthew Stafford.
Hold on, is he from Highland Park too?
Man, you know how it is down here. He'll be for whatever high school's paying the highest.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and that just on the on the note of coaching all that stuff, man, like I am telling y'all, like just whatever you I'm not a parent, so always that caveat of like I get to like beat them up and give them back and only go do the fun stuff with them. But just whatever they're into, like lean into their passions, and especially if they have any interest in the stuff you're doing when it comes to crypto and that stuff, like these kids will suck it up at a level that doesn't even make sense. We have a couple of really cool coaches, and again, like this is just expressing the football side, knowing that they'll do anything they're passionate at. Like we run an offense that looks like we're the Kansas City Chiefs. Like we run motions and these crazy fake plays, and we do bunch formations, and we throw the ball and do all this, like, and the kids just eat it up. Like they have a blast, and we throw so much at them that it's ridiculous. We had more yards passing than the rest of the league combined. Like I'm not exaggerating. Like we just started hooping and throwing the ball and playing around crazy stuff. And the kids have a blast. They're so much more involved. There's all these things going on. We call plays from wristbands and everything. Like I said, it literally looks like, we look like we're running the offense that you'd see at Baylor or again Kansas City or something. So like these kids, like they'll eat that up. Like these 8-year-olds literally are better at football than I'm 33 now. Like they're better at football at 8 than I was at 18. So just lean into those youth, man. They're about it.
Wars, who's teaching them the offense?
So the kid I sent you a picture of, him, his dad, me, and one other guy helps us out. But we built an entire offense that runs off the wristbands. And so luckily his son isn't as the crazy one who's the quarterback. But his wristband has every play like in depth, and then everybody else's wristband has what they do on that play. So we give them little hints that says like, hey, like running play coming your way. Essentially, we have a symbol for that, and then it says who their blocking assignment is. So we have all this stuff where they move around. But yeah, we between me, him, and one other person taught them sort of the offense, and then explained a lot of these things. Like I can just show you stuff where we have 8 and 9-year-olds running whip routes to beat double coverage, just the craziest stuff, man. They'll eat it up if you can teach them.
Yeah, I played quarterback in high school, and I didn't start learning that stuff to high school, man. That's why I was wondering who's teaching them all these different formations and different reads and stuff. That's pretty cool.
That's pretty sweet. Yeah, that kind of knowledge at a young age, especially learning a little bit more down the line in regards to movement and press and staying inside the pocket. They get all that right now to advance them by the time they get to the college level. Hey, but Walrus, on the side note, if you end up with an opening on your fantasy, just look my way so I can take y'all down.
I got you. Someone was messaging me about that the other day. We should get a couple of like Hex and Pulse leagues together. Just everything like that always builds the community together, man. And there's a lot of people that enjoy it, so we can get in there and roast each other.
Now, that would be sweet. That would be sweet to keep that camaraderie going. Bam. Just as soon as you get an opening, just look for Chaztown, and then just go ahead and just donate your money now before we even start drafting.
A fun fact was my high school coach started the whole 7-on-7 thing in Texas. So a guy named Doug Steven, he's the head coach over at Rowlett now, but he started 7-on-7. That whole, we used to just call it Skelly in high school, but then when I graduated, it turned into this big summer event where you know how big 7-on-7 is now, but it was he started it. This guy he's an offensive genius, but fun fact.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've spent a lot of time at those. If you remember, Zemansky, he went to Baylor. Zemansky was a quarterback at Baylor. What is it going on, like 14 years ago now? He went to the same school as me. And then David Nelson, the one who caught that big national championship game from Tebow down there in Florida. He went to the same school. And then JT Barrett, the JT Barrett, that savage who was up at Ohio State. Yeah, he's a buddy of mine too. He went to, all those guys went to my alma mater, and so I've done a lot of 7-on-7 with those guys growing up, and then now we're on the coaching side, and I'll send you a little highlight reel of our guys, and I'm telling you, it literally looks like midgets playing football, because you're just like, nah, there's no way 9-year-olds are out here doing this noise. Like, we run some of the funniest stuff. Like, I'm telling y'all, it'll just have y'all belly laughing at our team.
I mean, like, what are the other coaches? I mean, they just got their mouths just hung wide open. Just like, what?
So after our first scrimmage, I literally went and talked to the other coaches, because this is our first year in the league too, with me and our quarterback and his dad coaching. I went over to the other coaches and parents and we're like, hey guys, like, look, like, we're a really, really weird team. We have this special kid and like, we're obsessed about this. I promise you guys, everything's going to be fine. You guys have a good team. Don't worry. We're the only team like this in the league. I literally felt bad. I had to go and like calm down their parents and be like, don't worry, your kid doesn't suck. We're just this weird team. Don't worry about us.
Well, I was trying to get a word in. Is that like an I-9 philosophy? So it gets all the kids involved, so no one's like kind of left out. Are you familiar with them? That type league or pick six?
It's similar. It's one of those things that it wasn't causational, it was correlational. So like, it kind of like went to that same route. What we found is, like, when it came to coaching a lot of the other positions, so like our quarterback, he's weird, right? Like, I'm worried about him. He might be autistic or have Asperger's or something. There's no reason that any kid at 8-year-old is that obsessed with anything. Like, we literally have to push him away from football to go do other stuff. And I'm not talking about during practice. I'm talking about like during the week. Like, it's a level of obsession that I wish I had. For the rest of them, we've just found that there's like a balance between overwhelming them with things they don't do well and sort of making sure they're engaged. So, like for the offense, like for our offensive line, we have right and left calls. We have little combos where one player has a very specific job to look for something, and then it's his job to let the next player know. So we have a player that plays kind of like it's like a tight end, but it's a step back, and he's a step back because you can't deal with speed rushers at that age. So there's certain things that we've charged him with where he knows on his wristband it tells him left or right, pass, run, a few things that he needs to know. But then there's a few things that when he sees something he does like or doesn't like, he lets his tackle know. So if someone lines up in the gap between them, but he thinks there's a blitzer coming on the edge, like he'll tap his tackle, and that tap means like, hey, you got to get the guy between us. I'm going outside. So we just kind of found this really cool balance between having enough coaches that really know football and having, honestly, we just got a really good group of kids that we could basically, rather than have to tell everyone, hey, here's what this means, and here's what this means, and here's what this means, we just kind of found ways to like make every kid kind of a leader on a couple of things. And like, here's what this kid does well. All right, we're gonna make sure he's in charge of this. So like when we do kickoff, our guys closest to the kicker face out, and it's literally, I'll ask them, like, is your line right? Whose responsibility is it? And they know it's their fault. Like, if anyone on their side of the kickoff is wrong, it's their fault. They take responsibility, and like they line that up, and like they take a lot of pride in it. And then we have a lot of these things where we built in where one player has to know 4 or 5 things, but him doing that means that between him and the player next to them, that we have like 10 or 12 points of adjustment between 2 players, but we only have to teach them half. And for the rest of the offense, we don't have to teach them anything. And so we just kind of found this lever between giving them enough on their plate that they're engaged and involved, and they feel like leaders, and they've got fun stuff going on, but not having to throw like an entire NFL offense at them where they're so overwhelmed that like they don't care and they start picking daisies and doing whatever they're doing. So it's a neat act between really sort of compartmentalizing some of these cool things, always leaning on the kids to know more, be better. And it's worked out to be so cool.
No, that's cool, man.
Sponsored by Pulsechain.com.
Man, that was actually the worst thing about that, Playboy. We fought and fought and fought. They wouldn't let us do direct sponsorship. So we bought, like, all the kids have like trick jerseys. We bought game socks. We did game cleats. We did all this stuff to hook them up, but they wouldn't let us put out official sponsorship. Otherwise, we would have had them just absolutely logoed up.
What did
That's the shame.
what did I miss? You guys sponsoring a Pee hockey team or something?
We were talking about the youth football team that I coach down here, and we've done a lot of really cool stuff for them. But yeah, they won't let us do personalized advertising on there. But we did get them to allow us to. So they wouldn't. They said we looked up the rule and we fought with them about it. So we're not even particularly religious. We just like the idea of, a lot of camaraderie and ritual being important for the kids and stuff. So on top of a lot of the cool stuff we did, the rule was you were not allowed to do any religious assembly on the field. That was how they wrote the rule. So we're like, oh, perfect. So if we're off the field, then it's allowed. So we actually, after warm up, we would literally take the kids literally off the sidelines. We'd go back out into like behind where the bleachers are, and then the teams would all get down together and do the Lord's Prayer together. And so like we're like that. We're looking for any edge on the playbook. So maybe we'll put up posters or something on the sideline so that it's in the camera footage. We'll do more stuff next year.
That's cool. That's what's up. That's kind of interesting. They allow like companies to do direct sponsorship for youth teams? Like I know, like Bad News Bears. He he had like the strip club sponsor the team.
Yeah, that's just a specific league rule. They wouldn't allow it.
Great thing. None of these fools try to stop you when you do the prayer.
So that was one thing that we touched on, like, a few of our players, one of them, his mom is from Kenya, another one's Nigerian, and I have a lot of Nigerian friends that so I could speak a little Hausa. That really helped warm them up. Anyways, we just kind of talked down and we're like, guys, like, look, like this really isn't anything about any religion. It's just the idea of just, there's something bigger than us, teamwork, like these kind of things matter. So like, even when we give up hype speeches, it's very much about like the team element of these things. So we're like, look, like, I'm not even particularly Christian by any stretch. I have a lot of Christian ideals because I'm, Western, but, I don't go to church or anything like that. But even I love the idea of the prayer. It's just the idea of like the Lord's Prayer is just a very positive sentiment and image, whether or not you actually agree with the religious connotation. Like they're 8 and 9. Like they don't even really know what the words necessarily mean, but they know that everyone does it. It's important for everyone. The coaches lean in and that we care about each other. And that's really all they get out of it. And that's all that matters.
And if anybody who digs deep into it, it's all the same anyways. It works.
Yep.
Hey, Walrus, I pray that you check your DMs.
Did you DM me?
Yeah, man.
Got it.
A lot of sideways action on Hex the past few days. Was doing a internet install for a fellow last week, 2 weeks ago, and I disconnected one of the other units to put this guy on a splitter. This dude comes running out in his underwear and like a gown. He's like, what's going on?" And I was like, "Well, man, it'll be up in a second." Like I just had to disconnect you to put a new splitter in. He's like, "Man, I'm a freaking day trader. I don't have time for this. It better be back up for a second." And I just laughed. I was just like, that could have been me a year or two ago.
Well, Illuminati, I got a price prediction for Hex for you. Guaranteed 100% accurate.
Lay it on.
The Hex price from now on will either go up or down. There you go.
Oh, thank you for imparting such wisdom upon me. I will do with that what I can.
Call that redneck TA.
Sort of like the weatherman. I can predict weather too. 50% chance it's going to rain today.
I got one too. It will always beat its all-time high again. Always. And another one is it never hits the same. It will always hit the same price at least twice.
Well, if you get it cheap now, or you miss getting it cheap now, hang out for a while. It'll get back down there.
I'm ruined, Redneck. Every time I hear you talk now, I think there's a public service announcement coming.
I haven't done one of those in a while. I was enjoying the football coaching instructions by Walrus. Of course, my kid went through that many years ago. So I know the feeling about coaching them. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, on that note, I got to say to all you parents who invested a lot of time and energy in your children, sometimes it can be, really wear you down. But I got to say, what an absolute waste. You guys literally should have just been aunts and uncles. It's a way better gig.
And really, especially in Texas, Pee Wee football is probably the funnest experience you'll have in football, because once they get to high school, it gets really serious and really political, down here at least.
My boy started playing when he was 6 or 7. He played up till high school, and because my wife was a school teacher at the time, she brought him to a different school, and he said he refused to play for anyone that sucked. So I couldn't blame him. He's won multiple Super Bowls and things of that nature, and the kids he went to school with were always mad at him.
1 million hex just ended stake for after serving 366 days. Reward was 150K. Be interesting to see what that fellow does with that. It's not too much, but still a pretty hefty amount to stake for over a year. So don't know what the price was 366 days ago. We'll see it up.
Yeah, Mando was saying last night that we got quite a few stakes ending here in the next week or so.
Yeah, this will definitely be a tried and true test of kind of what people's outlook is. I guess some of the bigger players for sure. I know I've been pretty happy seeing a decent amount of stakes over the past month go in for some lengthy terms. Over 1,000 days on Ethereum side. So it's cool if people are throwing some big amounts in for a long time on Ethereum side, knowing full well that Pulsechain's coming out and they still have faith, which is what's up.
I read a news report last night that that all the inflation fears that we're having could be overdone, and that with a few rate hikes, it could become under control. What's y'all thoughts about that? And will that be the next catalyst or leg up for a bull market if that news does come out?
Oh, I think it's definitely under control. That's for sure. They have a lot of control on it.
Yeah, I don't know. I talk to a lot of people throughout the day, and I'm always kind of trying to at least let them know where I stand. And for the most part, the sentiment I get from people, they're more interested in the rise of the interest rates for mortgages than they are inflation. I hear a lot more talk about interest rates for mortgage than I do about inflation. And a lot of times I'll have to steer the conversation towards, hey, if if you hold your dollar right now for a year, it's only going to be worth 92 cents next year this time.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point because I know a lot of friends that refinance and got HELOC loans and stuff like that that may have an adjustable rate. And for those people, man, I feel for them because definitely they're going to be paying more for their mortgage.
Yeah, that sucks, man. Now my 7 years is finally up. I'm allowed to open up a normal bank account after doing some naughty things. And I was looking at this credit union, and I was looking at their rates for the ARMs, the adjustable rate mortgages. Why would you even consider doing something like that to yourself?
Well, a lot of people just aren't savvy when it comes down to stuff like that, and they get sold that adjustable rate thinking it's okay. But you know, if you got sold adjustable rate 2 years ago when interest rates was at an all-time low, you know, you might have thought you was good, but here we go raising rates again. So tough
Yep.
situation.
When I signed the lease on my place right now, there was one part in the lease it was pretty boilerplate, but I mean my landlord has a decent amount of property. But one part in the lease was regarding, I forget what the law is called, but basically said that the landlord has the right to raise the rental amount. And I was like, I'm not signing that. You know, you tell me I'm paying this much. This is what I'm paying, and I don't want you raising that. He really he was down with it. He was cool with it, but I was glad I kind of like sought it out and went through the paperwork pretty meticulously and found that little caveat. And he didn't. The way he reacted, I don't think he even knew like it was in there or what it was about. And I was like, dude, there's people in the Bay that leased a 2-bedroom apartment at 2,000 or 3,000 a month. A couple years ago, and now they're getting hiked up to 4,000 or 5,000. Like, I don't want that happening to me. This place is blowing up right now. We got people flooding in from all over the country, and you're telling me in price. Let's stick with that.
Where's that? The Bay Area?
No, I'm in Humboldt County, right here next to Cal Poly. The now Cal Poly, what used to be Humboldt.
Oh, I spent a lot of time up by the Shasta Mountains, up there in Redding and Chino, and beautiful up there.
Walrus, I answered your comment. Let's keep that ball rolling. Can you please take a look?
Yep, reading right now.
Papa B, thank you for all the hard work, man. I got my Vault wallet set up. I got my Vault wallet address set in my MetaMask. I'm just waiting on the RPC so I can move everything into the vault, and then I'm done.
Sweet. Congratulations.
Like some people wanted to launch so they could do some trades. I just wanted to launch so I could get my stuff in my Vault wallet. I've been running tests on the test net. And it'll take me all of 10 seconds to move everything. So I'm ready.
I cannot wait to explain the obsessive behavior that How To Pulse has around this launch. I cannot wait to share that. We'll have some really cool stuff that we get to explain after launch.
Why after lunch?
Some of the things that we're explaining would affect the security of some of the things we're doing. So they don't really they don't hold up or directly affect launch, but we just can't really discuss them publicly until then.
Okay, cool. I offer a box of Cohibas.
I wish I could say that I couldn't be bought that cheap, but I can.
I'm joking, Boris. I'm joking. So when we having another Twitter storm? Anyone knows when next one is in plan?
I think we're going to try to knock out one more probably this week with some of the current content that we have. And then the next rendition is going to be aimed at the Terra community, since so many people there just got wrecked. We want to reach out the olive branch and try to bring over some of the hearts, minds, devs, smart people from over there.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Hey, Pulse OG, man, I got an ignorant question. How on the testnet do you have your, how have you been practicing in regards to getting your RP settings just set up so you can make that quick transaction to your vault? I don't see how you can do that on the testnet. Help me out.
No. I haven't. I just got the testnet 2B RPC setting, so that's all I'm waiting on. But what I did was I set up my vault and I put my vault address in basically my dummy wallet, or the wallet that I'll be receiving my airdrop in.
Yep.
So it makes it really easy just to click that address, and the block time's 3-4 seconds. Once you put in what you're gonna send, 5 seconds later it's in your vault wallet. So I'm just running test runs with that, not the RPC setting. Once it's in that vault wallet, it ain't coming out. The only time it's coming out is when I get a clear indicator that we're in a bull market and it's just crypto mania all over the world. Then I'll bring the vault out. You know, because I like to sell tops. I like to sell bottoms and buy tops. So I'm trying to correct that this time around.
can we do something about this dude in chat? Syntax Squad Anon keeps like coaxing community members to get him to DM him something about how he's giving away Ethereum private keys, some bullshit. It's like the second time I've seen him in here in the last few days doing.
Yeah, I'll tag Link real quick and have him look through it.
Thanks, appreciate it. I guess he's doing it in the Hex channel as well, and it's just not pretty frowned upon in my opinion.
Hey, Walrus, I just put in some more reflections. Can you take a look?
Yes, sir. I also hate reflections though.
Trappings, smatterings, dreams, fantasies.
Yep, all of those are approved.